Well, like I said, nice view. Oh, you have to drive pretty far up into the hills to get to it. But every so often, a visual effects designer can come up with an even faster way of getting around.
One of the fastest ways can be through the use of a high-speed computer. And for the Disney Studios, the next stop was the 1982 feature, Tron. Computer imaging was used to produce about 14 minutes of the 65 minutes spent in Tron's electronic world. The rest, the vast majority, was produced through a painstaking process of backlighting that involved the multi-pass colorization of every frame of original black and white film under the supervision of Harrison Ellenshaw.
Backlight compositing is the term that we applied to the process by which we added the color to Tron. And basically, what that means is the last two-thirds of the film is photographed in black and white. And by adding color filters to the camera as you put this over a light box, you can rephotograph each frame of film with different color added to different portions of the film. There were glitches, there were problems, and it was not always possible to keep everybody going in the same direction. But in general, we handled most of that. Of course, sometimes you end up redoing things. There were even exposure shifts mid-scene, which, to reveal a secret here, what we would do is leave it that way if we didn't have time to reshoot the shot on the animation stand, and as a result, the sound people would put a little zing in there, and like it was an intentional shift and kind of an intentional computer-like thing. And our excuse in dailies always was, well, that's the way it is inside a computer. Those things happen, and we have yet to find anybody who's actually been in one to tell us that we were wrong.
These familiar-looking spacecraft weren't shot from any model. In fact, they exist only in the memory of a computer. In 1978, programmers John Whitney and Gary Demos synthesized them in order to demonstrate the power of computer imagery to George Lucas. Since that time, a number of companies, including Lucasfilm, as well as several universities, have joined the research effort. The next major breakthrough after Tron was the more than 30 minutes of fully synthesized imagery produced by Whitney and Demos for the 1984 feature, The Last Starfighter. Digital Productions co-founder, Gary Demos.
The computer works with the designer in a process that we've worked out. The first step is doing storyboards, just like any other production. From the storyboards, then we'll do a production breakdown, and we will decide what objects need to be created and put into the computer. These objects are put on the encoding tables and laid into the computer very carefully, and the shape of their surface is described to the computer. We have a film recording system that we've worked on interfacing to our computer. We have a very high-performance link between that computer and the film recorder. The film recorder is capable of going up to 8,000 scan lines, which, if you compare that with 500 lines for television, that's a completely different ability. We use a Cray XMP computer, which is a very powerful machine. And the Cray XMP is what's called a vector processor. What that means is for a single instruction that is issued to the computer, it may do a whole bunch of operations. And that's what gives it its speed, because you can overlap lots of these processes. It also has a very fast clock rate. It has a 9.5 nanosecond clock rate, which is over 100 million operations every second, and there's two processors, so there's at least 200 million operations per second if you just have one thing happening at every clock, and if you can get them overlapped, you can easily get 400 or 500 million operations a second. There are limits to this system, but there's, of course, all sorts of new capabilities. You can change things from one shape into another, which is certainly impossible with physical objects. You can take something from very close up to extremely far away to a point in the distance. You can change its lighting and surface texture. You can put objects through each other, interpenetrate. Well, there's a few challenges awaiting us. We're not able to simulate a human being doing any believable personality-type behavior. We can get the look of a human being, and we can do a medium or a long shot. But when you get to a facial close-up, all the subtlety of expression, that's beyond us at this time. We still have a challenge with regard to fur and hair and very wispy type substances. We've made some progress at that. The Last Starfighter was just our first picture doing essentially a replacement of motion control. And certainly our next picture will be much more exciting, and with each year, with computer technology advancing, it'll just be ever continuing. I think we've crossed the threshold point. Now the issue will be how exciting can a picture be made.
In spite of its present limitations, computer animation may be one path towards the future of visual effects.
More difficult to me.
The ability to produce truly invisible effects would seem to suggest that we've finally reached the limits of this technology. But Douglas Trumbull's new ShowScan process is challenging the most fundamental assumptions about film presentation. By shooting on large format film at the infinitely sharper rate of 60 frames per second, and projecting at the same rate in specially designed theaters, as producer Peter Beale points out, ShowScan promises audiences of the future an even larger window on the reality lurking behind the screen as the new magicians of tomorrow gain a little more magic.
The director, if he has a scene with good actors and a dramatic scene, can allow the camera to stay back a little bit and let the actors perform, because you see every innuendo. You don't have to cut in to see an eyebrow raised. You see it. So it gives the director a lot more freedom. It also gives them a lot more power, because, as you say, if you want to use a dramatic close-up, it is that much more dramatic. And so we're really giving the actor and the director a lot bigger canvas to play with.
What a fantastic image storage medium film is. Keep in mind that it still requires almost the entire memory capacity of the most powerful computer in the world to store and process the information held on one single frame of 65 millimeter film. So, you know, you're talking about something that's about 7/1000 of an inch thick and an inch by 2 inches in size. The film is here to stay for a long time.